but this is
Yeah.
at the major league level. Bats are flying into the seats like boomerangs, and if people are in those seats, they're in big trouble. Hi, everyone. This is Jordan Skop here with Brianna Ludwig. We have another edition today of Foul Ball Safety Now. We have a guest we're going to introduce shortly. But before we do that, I want to talk about some news at Foul Ball Safety Now. This week, there's a trial starting in Tampa. Unfortunately, a little girl was hit by a barrel of a baseball bat years ago. It's going to trial. I showed up yesterday in court and they were doing jury selection. So I decided to come back another day. Looking forward to opening arguments. So we'll see how that goes. There was a case in Modesto, California, where unfortunately there was a person hit by a foul ball outside the ballpark. And just found out that that case was settled. We're not sure what kind of money settlement the woman got, but typically when these cases are settled, people don't even know how much money the plaintiff got. So sometimes on settlements, it's good that the plaintiff got money for her injury, but nobody in the general public could really learn just how significant of a settlement she got because of the serious nature of the injury. So just wanted to go over that. Um, there's a couple of other things playing out. There's a Queens College investigation going on. If you go to Foul Ball Safety Now, you can see a couple of letters we wrote to the Queens College administration. According to the lawyers that I speak with, they tell me that Queens College will eventually have to address this matter. This is a whistleblower student situation where the student athlete is feeling stress. They contacted me and they told me they're wondering amongst themselves who will be the one to crush or do worse to one of the students that walk outside the ballpark when the typical game or practice is going on. And these young guys are hitting hard foul balls over the sides and they're worried about hitting little kids. So that's a legitimate concern, not so unique just to Queens College, but many of the professional ballparks that I've been following all have lower sides. They're usually one tier, one level. So balls typically fly out into the parking lots where there are people, where there are cars, where there are broken windows. And unfortunately, in some cases, direct contact with human beings and hitting people's heads. So, that being said, I'm glad you guys are tuning in today. It's August 12th, if I haven't mentioned that. So this is another edition of Foul Ball Safety Now. I'm with Brianna Ludwig. Brianna, if you'd like to say hi today, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you, Brianna. Very cheerful. We try to keep it fireside chat. We don't want to keep it like it's, doom and gloom. We just want to bring the news to everyone and let everyone, decide for themselves how they want to jump into this conversation. So we really appreciate that. And we're going to introduce our first guest. So we're turning the tables. We're meeting people, interesting people that we offer them an opportunity to ask us questions. So I'm going to introduce a guest today. It's Adriana Riloba, a teacher consultant, art teacher, a mom, and happy to say hi. How you doing, Adriana?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Great. So, Adriana, are you ready in a few minutes to turn the tables on us and ask some questions so the
I'm
audience can
ready.
get familiar with foul ball safety?
I have my list of questions, so I am ready.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's turn it over to Adriana and Brianna. Feel free to chime in, or I'll just take it and we'll take it from there. So, thank you.
Yeah, so one, I wasn't familiar with the movement. And, as I'm reading through the website, little memories of mine shift as well, where I'm like, oh, just a few months ago, I went to a Maryland Blue Crabs game, and my daughter's aunt and her boyfriend came with us, and he used to play professional baseball. And so his friends were on the team. We got in, we were sitting actually in the bleacher kind of area, where it's unnetted. And
Right.
just seeing his energy shift from it, because baseball players, like, they know, they're aware. They're not just aware of the game, they're also aware of the audience and where the ball goes. Like, that's their job to track down where the ball is going. So he was just really hyper vigilant because, like, my daughter, she's 5 years old, and so he's just always right in front of her. He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I just wanna make sure I can catch the ball if it ever comes this way." Like, that was, like, instantly on his mind, throughout the game, and I wasn't really thinking about it or too aware of it, but just seeing his energy and knowing that he has played professional baseball and this is kind of his realm to know that, okay, I'm like, this is obviously a thing, So, yeah, so reading through, some of the stories and things like that you have online, one thing that I wanna ask is maybe just a lighter question to start things off
Sure.
is maybe just tell me a little bit about yourself and what your history
Oh,
is with baseball.
well, I appreciate that. Well, I grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York, and I think typical kid from New York liked sports and played little league baseball for a number of years. Was like my number one sport. Went to
Mhm.
baseball games and just evolved into a regular adult baseball fan, as the years go on.
Yeah.
And I decided after I saw a little girl get hurt in 2019 that, we couldn't stand by and do nothing anymore. It was time to step up.
Mhm.
And, and, and that's what I've been doing for 6 years. Um, it's been ongoing every day, every week, following things that everyone I think needs to learn and discover for themselves. But I'm just surprised that it took a long time for a movement to finally address this issue and really stare it down and try to figure out, you know, what could be done ASAP as opposed to
Yeah.
just listening to these stocked responses from corporate.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was actually gonna be one of my second questions is just what have you witnessed to kind of bring this matter to attention to yourself? So, yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
Kinda have
yeah, just morning news on a typical day
Yeah,
and saying a little kid got hurt in 2019, and,
yeah,
it just inspired me to, pay attention to the issue, and I've been doing nothing else really, so but
yeah,
it's worthy of my time, so
yeah. So from that, I guess viewing online about this issue and stuff, like, did you have a previous history of, like, defending people, or did this kinda start that passion?
wow. I think I've always been somebody who's tried to champion a cause, more in idealism than in practical application, just like
Yeah.
speaking with friends and trying to figure out, how to make the world a better place and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. That sort of always inspired me to be around the circle of like-minded people to discuss, how to improve the world and I think
Mhm.
we all want to attach ourselves to something,
Yeah.
and I was fortunate enough to, have the courage, I guess, to take this on and stay the course. And a lot of people are around me, mostly service providers, but people that I think, if I wasn't around anymore, they would carry on the cause. But
Yeah.
it's still important to have, smart people and people that are dedicated to the issue around me. But this is really just a one person passion project. And
Yeah.
it's exciting to, get news in front of people. And it may cost a few dollars to do that, but I think my instincts were correct from 2019 to now to keep it going. So that's what we do.
Mhm.
We welcome anyone, come join us. So it's exciting.
Yeah. So what was the first step that you took in, trying to make these changes happen?
Well, I'm glad you're asking that. In the beginning, maybe people would say, oh, there was a knee jerk reaction from a fan with maybe some means, which was
Mhm.
me. I offered the Mets and the Yankees a lot of cash to take care of their netting issue. So
Mhm.
people may interpret that as he's trying to throw around his money and he's appearing to be a big shot. So it may look that way on first glance, but it's 6 years later, I'm still at it, and I am making
Yeah.
gestures, and
Yeah.
I've done things to, take money out of my pocket and try to make statements. newspaper
Mm,
ads, airplane
mhm.
flyovers, and other things that are clearly on the website Foul Ball Safety Now that everyone could discover. So appreciate you asking that. Thanks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess aside from, the financial aspect of things to try to get things moving, like, what has been a milestone that you've seen change in already?
Yeah, there was a situation in Peoria, Illinois, where they were one of 120 teams. They were the only one of 120 teams in the minor leagues. They call them the PDL leagues that did not
Uh-huh.
have netting above the dugout. And that upset me greatly. So I thought that it was inappropriate that she carry on business without the local fans knowing that they were the one of 120 that didn't have netting above the dugout. So I I did do a plane flyover
Mhm.
over the city of Peoria. I did hire an attorney in Illinois to move forward on a case and try to get the Peoria team, the city, Peoria Chiefs, to extend their nets ASAP. And then the case went on for about a year, and we eventually dropped the case. We ran a few rounds in court, but we did get a significant outcome because the Peoria Chiefs did extend nets eventually. And
Uh-huh.
I think our movement on Peoria our initial movement on Peoria may have prompted MLB to make a statement about the lack of netting in many of the PDL ballparks that needed to have extension.
Yeah.
And we did get a nice article in the St. Louis Dispatch and the Peoria Star Journal.
Mhm.
And it does show that we've been persistent in the timeline of initiating the movement in Peoria and to some extent getting the nets extended in Peoria and getting MLB to say things in late December 2022 about extending netting, and my movement started way earlier. So
Yeah.
a lot to be discovered on the website. So I'll let people
Yeah.
can decide for themselves, but thanks for asking that. That's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you
Yeah.
feel like it's taken this long? Because at least when I was looking on the website, it said there was an incident in, like, the 1970s of, someone dying from a
Yeah.
fall and stuff, like, why do you think that the standard isn't to where it should be?
Yeah, it's still dark ages, 2025. There's still a lot of things that are happening every month that we're discovering in 2025
Yeah.
at the major league level. We don't even know the extent of the minor leagues and the other professional leagues where there's 5 times as many more games worthy of thorough research. But why is it taking so long and why will it continue to take a lot longer? It will take a lot longer, unfortunately, because the people within the game, they don't want to buck the system. There's too many people that are working
Mm,
inside the game that clearly can demonstrate that the issues continue, but I guess
yeah.
they're choosing not to because of their roles in the game. So it's going to take courageous people in politics to change some laws and make sure that every professional ballpark, really any ballpark, college, high school. It's going to need sort of like an independent netting council for every ballpark to determine if this is really appropriate netting or are there still questions that remain whether there are gaps. Because we do know, even with piecemeal improvements, that there are still gaps everywhere. Just the
Yeah.
other day, a bat goes over the net like a boomerang, and that shouldn't be. This is
Yeah.
at the major league level. Bats are flying into the seats like boomerangs, and if people are in those seats, they're in big trouble. So,
Yeah.
why is that continuing? And so that's why I say, in the near future, let's hope things get better. But right now, status quo is a mess. So
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. And I'm in healthy aggression, and we stay the course. Foul ball safety now. It is we're trying to have a conversation here, and I wanna do this every day, and I certainly don't wanna feel like I should be internalizing what I kinda know is it's upsetting.
Mhm.
So I try to share it with everyone and let everyone try to jump in and into this conversation, and they can have a role in it as well.
Yeah, well, I feel like
Yeah.
it's very clear for anyone that goes to a baseball game to kind of feel a little weary sitting in those seats without the nets, especially so close to the field.
Yeah, yeah, nobody endorses. There's no outside agency that says you're good to go, so there's no
Yeah.
guarantees. Most families don't have that idea that they're sitting in some kinda harm's way. My job is
Yeah.
to remind them that, unfortunately, all along, every time you had brought your kids, you may have dodged a bullet, and for
Yeah.
others, they weren't so fortunate. So they may look at their
Yeah.
own experiences as, "Hey, maybe we were having good times under some kind of false pretense, and maybe that wasn't the right way because other people weren't as fortunate."
Yeah.
So, I have to kind of pull back the curtain on all of that. So, it's interesting. It's a lot of different ways to come at it from a historical point of view, from present day point of view, and what's happening and where we're going. So,
Mhm.
it's kind of exciting meeting a lot of different people. People are very intrigued about this. So, thank you for asking these questions. And yeah, if you have any other questions, that's fine too.
Yeah,
Great.
I feel like cut Brianna off a little bit. Was there anything that you wanted to add?
Why has it taken so long? Yeah, I did have some
Mm.
input on that. I think something that's really interesting about this conversation is that it brings a lot of different mediums together, culture and the legal community.
Mhm.
And Americana is this concept that has really transformed and changed over time. It's constantly evolving. But baseball has been a part of Americana for a very long time. The baseball rule is over 100 years old. The song that is sung during the seventh inning stretch, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, is 116 years old.
Mm.
And their marketing strategy, their PR, their public persona and image has never changed over the years. It's always been this very wholesome, family environment. They've always marketed to families to come have a wholesome American day at the ballpark. The wholesome all American girl has really disappeared from modern media and modern culture, but in sports, it is alive and well in the form of baseball. And so, if they were to ever publicly admit in the way of now we're going to send people in to do an audit and actually figure out where the nets need to go. The fans are going to have questions like, why are you all of a sudden doing this massive move? And it's an admittance that they've been in danger this whole time and that baseball is not as wholesome and apple pie as they've marketed themselves to be. It would be an unraveling of over 100 years of this empire that they've built that's now, a multi-billion dollar empire. So,
Absolutely. I really, really love that perspective as well.
Yes. That was spot on. Yes, it's really tough for them to come to the table. Commissioner Manfred, who's a very bright lawyer, he's been in the game since the early 90s. He's been commissioner now, maybe 10 years.
Mhm.
They know that this is an issue that has not been addressed historically. And how do you address it historically? And what do you tell the people that I've met along the way who've been blinded by baseballs?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now you're doing some updated upgrades. Did you know back in 1970, after the 14-year-old boy died at Dodger Stadium, that it was inappropriate to have people sitting there for the next 45, 46 years? I get a sense that they did, but why didn't they warn the families to a satisfactory degree that this was the reality of what really happens every spring and summer? And that
Mhm.
if those conversations took place, that would make it in a way where the regulators would have to get involved, or they would have to make age appropriate. similar to like running with bulls in Spain, we all see the apparent danger. You have to be 18 and older to run with the bulls in Spain. Why wasn't baseball marketed for those 45 years as if you want to take a line drive potentially to the neck, you can, I guess, but you can't bring the little guys. Why wasn't it
Yeah.
ever portrayed that way? Because that really was the reality. The people
Yeah.
there were near misses on a regular basis, and why were we there to begin with? So,
Mhm.
I just think that all of these numbers could have been related a long while back about the regularity. And we did something at the Fallible Safety Now. We have Exhibit A1, which is a mathematical report, which you all can check out. We revisited a mathematical report from a publication called 538 back in 2019. So the gentleman I've been working with, Brendan, we went back at it. And when you take a look at it, you'll see we were able to take all the professional games, including major leagues and all of the other professional league games, which are 5 times as many more games as MLB games, and we took a number of how many foul balls there are per game. We actually cut it in half, so we didn't want to inflate the report, but it clearly demonstrates 350,000 foul balls per year every year. And how
Mm.
many of those are really going that fast into those exposed sections? And
Yeah.
that's what the questions are really going to come up, and everyone should eventually want to demand just how many line drives are coming in at 100 into exposed areas. And
Mhm.
baseball probably knows the answer to that. Professional baseball has been tracking data for the last decade or two. So, how are they going to get around that question? So, it's all very interesting. We just want intelligent questions with conviction, and we'll eventually get some answers. Then we can finally get on with it. I do hope to say one day that, we're in remembrance mode, but right now, unfortunately, we're in aggression mode about how to deal with the matter. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I
It's,
mean, it's
it's,
interesting just how intricate of an issue this is when it feels like ultimately the end goal is simple, is just to put up more netting. Would you say after that, if, let's just say that's the end goal, to put up
Mhm.
more netting in all the areas that are close to the stadium, it's like what is next? What else do you think that they could do better?
It's really it, and once we have an
Mhm.
opportunity to put all the information on the table, that's where the dialogue would lead to. It would be like,
Yeah.
how do we make it where it's almost impossible to be struck by a baseball? Or how do we make it where it's age appropriate? Or how do we make it where it's transparency, where now everyone is in the same informed consent kind of place? And I think that's what needs to happen. We shouldn't be surprising people with all of this every year, like another report, another report, another report. It's enough already. So,
Yeah.
we're excited to bring on these conversations and get a sense of relating this issue to people like you and people in the audience. So I think this was a really good conversation today.
I think the only last thing is I wanna
Sure.
say is, I feel like just in a lot of different aspect, honesty creates safety.
Oh,
So I just
good.
wanted to appreciate you for bringing awareness to this and just wanting to bring more of the truth out and just keep things as honest as possible to make that change.
I can't say anything else after that. That's really good. We're trying to just be in communication about what we see, and we want everyone else to see what we see. This was really positive. I thank you so much.
Adriana, can you
You
tell me what interested you to coming on this show and interviewing Jordan? What was it that piqued your interest, maybe from your perspective as a mother or as an art teacher, that piqued your
Yeah,
interest for this cause?
yeah, I mean, like I said, honesty promotes safety. So even in my art classes, I come from it in a very, emotional aspect, the lessons and stuff that we can learn from just applying different things and stuff. And even as a mom, I'm always trying to find ways of teaching her how to move forward through life and how to navigate things. And when I saw this, one, it was something that I personally had an experience with, and seeing how much of an issue it is with just having, a family member being a professional baseball player and just being so tense sitting in those unnetted seats with my daughter. So it kind of just flashed that memory back at me too that honestly just kind of went in the back of my mind, and it just it was just such an interesting topic for me to know that no, it's like this is real. There are definitely aspects to this that do need to be addressed a little bit better. So it just kind of piqued my interest and like a safety measurement of things.
Thanks everyone for listening today. And I'm looking forward for everyone to discover foul ball safety now for themselves. As I talked about the news on the top of the show, we'll continue bringing new episodes and updates for everyone to learn. And then we'll keep on going. So thank you again for listening, and until the next time.